Welcome to the fourth part of my animation course. Today we're gonna do something really practical that will allow you to animate real-world objects in changing their colors for like an e-commerce store. It's a very simple but very effective trick that will allow you to create simple but rich experiences. Welcome back. I found this nice photo of an armchair on Unsplash and we're gonna try to do something cool with it today. First of all, we need to cut it from the background, and of course we can use some AI tools for that, but let's do it the old-fashioned way by simply tracing it with a pen tool. And once it's traced like that, of course, let's remove the stroke, add a fill, place it under the image, and then mask it. And just like that, we have ourselves a nice looking armchair. But just so we can make it nice and natural, I'm gonna go back to our photo and I'm gonna create a new frame for the actual animation. And let's look at how the light actually looks like here, and let's create a little bit of a shadow under the legs. So I'm gonna start with just a couple of ellipses and I'm gonna add a layer blur to them. Maybe a little bit more towards the blue. Okay, something like this. And I'm gonna place them under each of the legs, but this is not gonna be the main shadow. This is going to be a starting point for it only. Now let's duplicate this one and let's make it bigger and even blurrier. Now I'm gonna move it to this side because the light is falling from the right to the left, so more of the shadow actually goes that way. And now let's create the light cones that we can see clearly over here. So using the pen tool, I'm just gonna create a cone like that. And remove the stroke, add a fill, but this time let's go with a linear gradient. It can start here and then basically vanish to that side like this. And then of course make sure that it's under the actual chair. We can pick a slightly more blue hue for both sides here of the gradient, like that. And then go to Effects, Layer Blur, and we can blur it just a tiny bit more, like this. And now you can duplicate it and place it under the legs as well, like that. Now some of the ellipses are a little bit too big, so we can shrink them, just so it looks a little bit more natural standing there. And of course you can also grab the main big ellipse, duplicate it, and also move it a little bit further down to create more of that illusion that it's casting a shadow over there. And then maybe decrease the opacity a little. Okay, and just like that, we created a nice looking shadow under the chair, which is good. We can now remove this part. Let's maybe make this into more of a dribble shot size, so 800 by 600. And now I'm gonna grab everything and place the armchair somewhere around here, because we are gonna need some space for the buttons here. Now, the first thing to do here also is that I don't really like how this dark part here looks like. So I'm just gonna create a new ellipse and pick a color from here, then paste it into the mask group like that, so it overlays a little bit, and then of course add a layer blur to it as well. And it can be a rather strong blur, maybe 10, something like that. And now we can duplicate it or copy it a couple times and create a seamless blend of that edge. Okay, this is now fixed. Let's create ourselves a couple of buttons. So I'm gonna start with the basic color that we already have here, which is this blue, and then duplicate it, and maybe let's add an orange like that, and maybe let's duplicate it and also add a green, something along these lines. So we have 3 buttons. They of course can be bigger if you want, Maybe let's make them 60 by 60. And I'm gonna keep them like that. You can of course make them look nicer too. Now what we want is to copy all of them to the inside of our mask, but on top of everything, like this. And then let's change the names of the layers. So this is gonna be the blue, this is going to be orange, and this is gonna be green. Now the next thing we want to do is go to layer and change the blending mode to color for all of them. Okay, and as you can see, it changes the color of the armchair to something that we might want here. So for example, if we go like this, we'll have an orange one. So let's place them all exactly in the middle on top of each other, including the blue one, but make sure that the blue one is at the very bottom, because this is going to be our starting point. Okay, perfect. And obviously the idea is that once you click on green, then this color is going to expand and recolor our armchair. But the problem is that we don't really want to recolor the legs, right? So to get around that, I'm actually gonna call this group chair main. So what we want to do is to duplicate this, and I'm gonna call this chair legs. And in that group, we can actually remove the green, orange, and blue overlays and kind of just lock it. In the chair main, let's go to the vector and let's pick flatten. When this happens, we'll have to actually use it as mask again, so it works like this. Okay, so let's hide this element below and let's flatten this again. Now let's go into the editing of this shape and let's remove the legs, just the legs. But of course, it doesn't really work because in that case we don't have fully connected nodes here, so everything disappeared, but that's fine, we're gonna fix it. So simply connect the missing nodes from the legs. Oh, we don't need to add any other ones. Okay, let's remove that. So just gonna connect this to that and then this here. And now we can flatten the shape and use as mask again. Just add a fill to it now, so it's just gonna work okay. And as you can see, we have a chair with no legs because the legs are in the same instance of the chair that's below, so we can just turn them on like this. So what we want in this one is that blue element in the back to expand it to be this big. And for now, let's just hide the green and hide the orange. Okay, using the pen tool, let's create ourselves a check mark. Gonna change the color to white and make it a little bit wider. And I'm gonna copy that check mark into the center of each and every one of our color pickers. And then on the ones that are not selected, in this case, I'm gonna decrease the opacity down to 0. And if you want, you can also bump up the size of the selected one, but not by too much, so maybe 70 by 70. Okay, so this is gonna be frame number 1. Now I'm gonna duplicate this entire frame, and in this one, I'm gonna bring back the orange, and this is going to be turned off. Now this is gonna be 60 by 60 as it was before, and this is going to be 70 by 70. Now let's go over here. Let's pick the orange mask and expand it like that. And of course, bring back the color. And just like that, you see we have a completely different color of the chair. So now let's animate it really quickly before we go into the green. So I'm gonna go to prototype and select the orange one and make it go to the second screen. Of course, it's gonna be Smart Animate. We'll leave it at the default, but let's add it to 500. And now let's pick our blue background, but just the background itself, not the check mark, and make it go the opposite way. And now let's test it out. And obviously while it loads, it takes a while for the image to load like this. It's a little bit pixelated, but then it loads and it looks good. So now let's click this. And voila! Just like that, we have a very nice switching of the color of our element here. Now you can use the exact same principle to add another color to the animation, or to keep it at 2 and add some additional UI elements to make it a realistic screen of an app. Just play around, explore, and most of all have fun. And that's it for today. Once that video reaches 100 comments, I'm gonna record the next part of this course. So until then, have a beautiful day.